So it's...
I'm not Catholic, but I've always thought that confession's the coolest thing they do.
As Thanksgiving rolls in, with the food, the noise, and the family chaos, Catholics get pushed into a rare moment of honesty. The slowdown exposes the sinful patterns we have ignored, and suddenly we are running back to confession to set things right with God. But we almost never stop to realize how insanely fortunate we are to have this sacrament. Most people carry their guilt with nowhere to unload. To drive that home, here is Jonathan Roumie, yes, the guy who plays Jesus in The Chosen, sharing his thoughts on confession with Tucker Carlson. Let's listen.
I'm not Catholic, but I've always thought that confession's the coolest thing they do.
It's a gift, man. It's a lifesaver.
Of course. When it became psychotherapy and you put like an atheist with bad judgment on the couch across from you, I don't think we lost something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the human need to connect, to unburden yourself, you know what's wrong, by the way. Most people know. You know. You don't need to be a Christian to know what's wrong. Everyone knows. Inside you know when you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And to say it out loud, to articulate it in words, is to rid yourself of it to some extent, I think. And
then for the sacramental part of it, that's where the healing comes in. That's where the spiritual healing comes in. So it's like if you're a cheesecloth full of holes, right? And you go into confession and you receive the sacrament of reconciliation from the priest. Now the priest, we believe he's been given divine authority that has maybe a not visible, but a tangible, physical, metaphysical effect on the casing of your soul. And it's like mending the little holes. Every confession is like you're closing up those holes and restoring that connection with God in a way that is essentially repairing your soul. That's what the sacramental part of confession is for us, which is hugely comforting and also physically tangible. For me, I feel just chemically slightly different after every confession that I go through, in a way that's like, okay, I can breathe a little easier.
Building on that, I really appreciate Tucker's point about the human need to unload the weight we carry, especially when that weight is the burden of our own sin. Guilt sits in the soul like a stone, and pretending it isn't there only makes it heavier. That's exactly the need the Catholic Church answers in the sacrament of confession, where the penitent speaks their sins out loud to a priest whom Christ is empowered to forgive. And in doing so, you're not just listing moral failures, you are dragging your sin out of the shadows and into the light, where God responds with both justice and mercy. This is why St. Augustine said, the confession of evil works is the beginning of good works, because naming the sin is the moment grace finally finds an opening. This naturally leads into the deeper spiritual dynamic behind confession, which is every great thinker understood that the tongue reveals what the heart tries so hard to hide. Spoken truth breaks the illusion. Once you say your sin aloud, the spell collapses, the power dissolves, and God can finally heal what has been festering in the dark. And yet, this is precisely why so many Catholics call confession humiliating. That sense of exposure is deeply uncomfortable. In our next clip, Bishop Barron explains why confession feels humiliating and why that discomfort is intentionally built into the sacrament.
Boy, it's hard to go to confession. I remember my first confession very vividly. Till now, confession is humiliating. It is. You're going to Christ, of course, but you're through his representative, and you're admitting bad things that you've done. I've never found that easy.
Yeah.
Never once. From the time I was 7 till my last confession, which was a few weeks ago. I've never found it easy. That's good. You know what I'm saying? Because yes, there's this sort of ideational, purely spiritual dimension to it, but sin, it comes from my body, affects my body, that my emotions and all that are involved in the act. Let's make confession as easy as possible. No, that's not right.
Yeah.
And I'll press it a little bit, because I'm at the age where we're kind of on the bridge in a way between the older and the newer. And, these poor kids going into this dark room and having to confess through, that's why I remember it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was a powerful part of it, that, yeah, there is a darkness in life, and it invades me. sometimes. It's called sin. And so to go into that place, that's good. But then that wonderful moment of, yes, as I bring this darkness to the Lord, He forgives me. Yeah. There's nothing like, I still probably haven't reproduced it emotionally ever, of coming out of the confessional as a little kid with that sense of, that rush of relief. So here we're talking about that level of emotion, body, and so on, the disposition. Fine. I think that's cool, how the church kind of thought that through. Don't make it as easy as possible. Yeah. I remember this is years ago. The church is going through some weird things. And we had a priest who said, now, look, when you come up, I don't want you to talk about your sin because that's too much of a negative. Tell me how you're such a good person. And I don't know how old I was at the time. I thought, well, this is stupid. Why would I go to you at confession to tell you I'm a good person? You know, but that's the sort of an emotionalism run amok. Like, oh no, nothing negative. There should be something negative about this experience of confession because contrition, which you have to demonstrate, it means to be crushed, right? Contritio means you're crushed by your sin. Part of that, I think, is the humiliation you feel.
Right.
That here's this other human, maybe, I don't know, this person from Adam, most likely, and I'm telling him these bad things I've done. Of course it's humiliating.
Well, that's
okay. Like that's part of the experience of it.
As Bishop Barron explains, confession feels humiliating because speaking your sins out loud strikes directly at the root of pride. Pride in Catholic teaching isn't just arrogance. It is the deep spiritual disorder where a person places themselves above God, above His wisdom, and above the moral order He established. In simple terms, pride is that inner voice saying, I am in charge, I decide what is right, and I don't need God. So when you step into the confessional, you are doing something radically countercultural and spiritually powerful. You are rejecting the lie that you are your own God and submitting yourself again to the one who actually made you. That kind of surrender is no small thing. It bends the ego back into place and realigns the soul, and that realignment is painful and humbling. To make that clearer, imagine a doctor relocating a dislocated shoulder. The shoulder may be sitting out of place, but the body gets used to the wrong position. So when the doctor forces it back into the socket, the pain is sharp and intense. But it's the only way real healing can happen. Living in sin dislocates it. Pride whispers, stay like this, don't admit anything, you are fine. But when you confess your sins, grace takes hold and snaps the soul back into realignment with God. And that spiritual adjustment hurts emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes even physically. This pain isn't a sign that the sacrament is flawed. It's a proof that the sacrament is addressing the deepest wound in the human person and restoring the soul to its proper relationship with God. The pain is the evidence that something real is happening. To end, let me leave you with the words of St. John Chrysostom. He said, the sin which is not confessed is not forgiven. The sin which is confessed is already healed. I hope this video is helpful. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. God bless you.